you ready to design your very first crochet toy pattern? Whether you've been doing it just for a little while and you've got the basics down and you want to branch out and have a bit of an experiment, or you've been doing it for absolutely years but you just need a bit of a confidence boost to give it a go, hopefully these tips will help you along your way. I have recently released a video where I talk about my sort of whole overview of my design process, how I come up with ideas and put patterns together. So if you haven't checked that out, go and check that out. Hopefully that'll be useful too. But these tips, even standalone, fingers crossed, should make a big difference to getting you stuck into designing your own crochet pattern. First and most importantly, start simple. Even if you're basically a crochet toy expert at this point, you've made dozens of them, they all look amazing. When it comes to designing for the first time, start with something that is super basic so that you can focus all of your energy on producing that pattern right. You can bring in all your awesome skills later on, but for that first one, start simple no matter how amazing you are. And remember, smaller isn't necessarily easier. Working a smaller project might seem less daunting for your first one, but remember, you know, lower weight yarns and smaller hooks are fiddlier. The intricacies of the design can be a little bit different. So simple and small are not synonyms. Often, in fact, for your first project, making something that is big and chunky is going to be a lot more straightforward than something that is teeny and fiddly. Be consistent in your terminology. There is not a hard and fast rule for how to write crochet abbreviations. There are some standardized things that are accepted as terms. I write in US crochet terms, but I also write my patterns in a slightly more mathematical way than some people do. Some people say increase, some people say 2SC in one stitch, some people just say 2SC. Make sure that whichever one of these that you choose, and any of them is fine, but whichever one you use, be consistent throughout the pattern so that if someone does end up following it, or even if you end up using it again, you know that you're meaning the same thing in different places in the pattern. It's really important. Use a hook that you're familiar with. When you're working up something novel, you don't want to be distracted by your tools. Use a hook that you know is comfortable in your hand and isn't going to snag at the throat on any of your yarn. Familiarity makes everything easier when you're learning a new skill, and that's what you're doing when you're making a pattern, no matter how familiar you are with the terms. This is no, make it easy on yourself. And on the same note, use a yarn that you are familiar with. Make sure it's one where you like the texture. It's not going to antagonize you whilst you're working by being too rough or by getting stuck on your hook or by snapping and snagging. Use a yarn that you know that you like as an absolute priority. And I would suggest that it's not chenille for your first one. Possibly controversial opinions there. Make sure that you have enough yarn. Don't go, oh, I'll try and use up this bit on this project when you're again trying to focus your energies on doing the design thing. Make sure that you have over planned, that you're over ambitious. Stockpile stitch markers. Make sure that there is absolutely tons of them and throw them into that design anytime that you think that you might want to remember something, not just where the end of the rounds are, but perhaps the points that you increased and decreased within those rounds asymmetrically as well to perhaps make the shape of a nose. You want to know where that point is. If you're not familiar with working that out, you need to know that looking back at it for things like positioning your eyes and stuff like that later on, and for explaining that to other people. Keep a notepad or your phone if you're more technological than I apparently am, but keep it right next to you the whole time. Write down everything. I write down the rounds before I do them, so I'll go, right, I'm going to start with a magic circle of 6 stitches, and I'll write down, that was a fly, I'm not going mad, write down magic circle 6 and then make a magic circle of 6 stitches. Then if you're going to do your increases, you're going to go 2SC times 6 brackets 12 and then make them. What happens there, therefore, is that when you are inevitably distracted by life, because it is distracting, that you're not going to wander off, come back and not know where you are. You know that's the round that you're in. You've marked the beginning of it and it's very easy to continue on your way. Make something that you would want to keep. Now I said start simple, and maybe simple's not your thing, but still something that's appealing, something that you find cute or unusual or interesting, or something that's related to a topic that you feel particularly passionate about. The first first thing that you make, and I think, in my personal opinion, anything you ever make should be something that appeals to you. If you're not going to love it, then the likelihood is smaller that other people are going to love it. Make things that you love and you can be more confident that other people will probably find them appealing too. Remember that caricatures are helpful. When we're making toys, particularly simplistic ones, over-exaggerating particular features, the ears on an elephant, stripes on a tiger, anything that you make more than it really is will help people to more quickly identify what creature it is that you've created. Caricatures are a really useful tool when you're first beginning your design journey. Take advantage of them. When you've made your first crochet pattern, make it again. Now, I am the first person to not want to do stuff again that I've already done, but when you're learning the process of producing a pattern, it is so important. Make it again, and make it another time. Make sure, that's a lot of makes, make sure that you are really, really confident in what you've written down, the clarity of what you've written down, and the outcome at the end of it. If you've got 3 things following the same pattern that all look a bit different, then that will help you to go back and go, okay, where have I gone askew? Ideally, in the perfect world, you would then get several people of varying degrees of crochet competence to pattern test it. And I appreciate that if you don't have crocheting friends with some spare time or a social media presence, that this is hard. I think Instagram is your best friend in this situation because people look for pattern tester tags. So I'd give that a punt if it's something that you want to try and do. And remember, the more beautiful or fun or unusual you can make the photos or videos that you put up to get people's interest in that, the more likely you are to gain attention and get those pattern testers. And then obviously be really nice to them and appreciate that it's going to take them a while because they've got other stuff going on. Don't worry if it sucks. I'm sure it doesn't suck. I'm sure it won't suck. I'm sure it will be lovely. But if you look at it and you're like, oh, well, that sucks. Welcome to the club of everybody who's ever made anything and thoroughly criticized themselves for it afterwards. Actually, the reality is it's probably really great and you made it and you designed it, and that deserves celebration even if the outcome isn't what you wanted. But don't worry at all for your very first thing. The likelihood that it is going to be a universally appealing masterpiece is clearly going to be slim. You're taking your skills and your knowledge and they will come together and coalesce the more that you practice and the more different things that you try. Try several different styles. Even if, you know, you've particularly made this chunky kind of pattern or this delicate kind of pattern in the past, try a few different things. You might find that your own sort of artistic talent and capabilities are more skewed to one style than a different style. But again, it doesn't matter if they don't turn out well the first time. It doesn't matter if they don't turn out well the first 10 times. If you're enjoying yourself and you're finding that it is activating the creative and enthusiastic parts of your brain, then that's a win. Finally, and I try to tell myself this even a decade into designing, just try to do one thing better every time. It's some lovely advice that gets banded around in a lot of different topic areas, but if you just work to improve one thing about each pattern that you design each time, whether it's an attention to detail thing, attention thing as you make it, taking better photographs, having more unusual ideas, the positioning of different features, if you improve just one thing every time you do it and you keep doing it, eventually you'll be a legend. You'll be brilliant. I firmly believe that crochet design is something that should be accessible to everybody who wants to try it. I think that everyone has this potential to be creative, whether that's in a 3-dimensional way or a 2-dimensional traditional art way. I think that it is in all of us to produce something, and I think that as humans, those things have the power to be completely unique and individual, and that it doesn't damage other crochet designers by you having a go. All of it just makes us stronger as a community. It gives people coming into crochet more options to look at, more places to go, more enthusiasm for giving it a try. I'm on a bit of a soapbox now, so I'll stop, but I just think it's really important. You can do this. If you want to do it, you can do it. Chat to me in the comments section below. I'd love to hear about your experiences, and if you want help and support from any of us who are in the game making crochet designs, then we'll be there to chat to you, and I'll see you in the comments section. Happy crocheting.